Coming up on tonight's This Week in Politics.
To watch what happened in the White House would make your jaw drop.
An infrastructure discussion between congressional Democrats and the White House falls apart. As Democrats inch closer to the idea of impeachment proceedings against the president says it's impossible to investigate and legislate at the same time. We'll take a look at that coming up. Good evening, everyone. I'm Brian Allen. Thank you for being with us tonight. We will begin here this evening with Bill de Blasio, the mayor of America's largest city, New York, and now one of 24 Democrats running for the party's presidential nomination. I had a chance to talk with him during a campaign stop in Sioux City, where we discussed the trade war with China, the U.S. farm economy, and health care. New York Mayor Bill de Blasio picked as one of his first Iowa campaign stops a restaurant on historic 4th Street in Sioux City called Rebo's. It was the dinner hour, and along with potential supporters, the Friday night dinner crowd also was able to hear from de Blasio about why he thinks he should be the Democrats' choice for president in 2020.
We've got to stop global warming. Look at the horrible floods that Iowa has experienced, all the extreme weather we're seeing all over the country. This is a very dangerous situation, and if we don't reverse it, it's at our peril. Certainly it's at the peril of our children and grandchildren.
De Blasio pointed to recent historic flooding in Nebraska and western Iowa as a sign that more must be done to secure the environment. As New York mayor, the de Blasio administration has put in place policies to cut carbon emissions in the city. He says he's ready to work on a nationwide program to curb the release of chemicals into the atmosphere. While de Blasio's political background may be in the nation's largest city, it is obvious he has done his homework for campaigning for president in Midwestern states, speaking at length about both the rural economy and family farms.
We have to rebuild the rural economy and make it a vibrant economy and a fair economy. Right now what we see is a rural economy that's too much based on big corporations' power and their domination of the agricultural sector. We see too many missed opportunities to create jobs for folks in rural areas so they can stay and their family members can stay.
One of the topics I spoke with de Blasio about during his stop focused on the state of the farm economy in light of the continuing trade war with China. De Blasio tells me every Iowa farmer he has spoken with fears long-term damage resulting from this standoff.
They are scared to death that the China market will be lost, particularly for soybeans, and this trade war has got to stop right away.
The White House says the trade war with China is in the spirit of ensuring fair agreements between the two nations. It doesn't just focus on import-export ratios, but also topics like corporate intellectual property. But while the president says the U.S. is in a position of strength, de Blasio believes all of it is making the U.S. weaker.
It is counterproductive. Donald Trump is leading us down a road to ruin right now. He doesn't have a strategy. We need a strategy to address China, but not this willy-nilly approach to a trade war that's creating a whole lot of danger, and it's going to hurt Iowa farmers, American farmers, and it's going to hurt consumers.
The trade war with China has now passed the 10-month mark with no ending in sight. De Blasio says people who were concerned about the length of this disagreement have a right to be worried, and that some type of new policy needs to be put into place.
A real strategy with a long-term goal, not a throw the spaghetti up against the wall and see if it sticks, which is what we're seeing right now.
Who feels you are working harder and working longer hours than you used to? Who feels that? Right. And who feels you are not getting more for all that hard work, that you are not getting more back for it?
De Blasio says as president he wants to focus on improving the financial strength of working-class families, telling this Sioux City crowd that too many people work too hard and end up with too little.
Working people are creating all the wealth, but it's only going to the 1%. That's because of government policies.
And to that point of government policies, de Blasio says he believes that the federal government is working too hard to benefit corporate farming operations and not working hard enough to benefit generational family farmers.
What I want to see is reinvestment in family farming in rural communities. Rather than aiding and abetting corporate agriculture, help local agriculture, help family farms. And I'm very concerned about foreign ownership.
De Blasio says he backs some type of health care reform which would provide coverage for each and every American, taking the concern of affordable medical care off the table. And he says included in that would be easier access to quality mental health programs as well. In fact, de Blasio says he has enacted programs for both in New York City. And he tells me there are other programs from the Big Apple he believes can be implemented nationwide.
Paid sick leave for working people who don't have it, full day free pre-K. These are the kind of things that would change people's lives. By the way, in rural Iowa, rural America, where people have seen schools consolidate, and they've seen the kinds of things their kids need not be available for them anymore. What if the federal government was actually providing the kind of support for early child education that rural Iowan children need? It's so clear to me that we could unite people across a lot of boundaries if we had a federal government on the side of working people.
At the outset of his campaign, de Blasio is showing he is both a progressive and a populist, a candidate who is hoping to cut a niche in Iowa as a presidential contender who is really for the middle class. But he also knows there are, in his party alone, 23 other candidates hoping to make the same argument. He tells me what he believes will make the difference in his case. He's not just talking about making change, he says he's doing it right now in America's largest city, and he says it is working.
It's not just about talking and proposing, policy papers. It's about getting things done. Iowans are very picky in a good way. Iowans are tough. They interview candidates for the whole nation. They decide who gets to go on to the next round. I think Iowans believe in deeds, not just words. I'm going to show them that policies that help working people are actually happening where I'm mayor, that we've made these things happen, that millions of people are benefiting, and it could be happening for Iowa and the whole country. And I think that's going to be persuasive.
Bill de Blasio becomes the fourth Democratic presidential contender we've been able to talk with. You can find our previous interviews with Cory Booker, Julian Castro, and Beto O'Rourke by searching This Week in Politics in Quotes on both the KSFY News app and our website at ksfy.com. Coming up next on tonight's This Week in Politics.
Instead of walking in happily into a meeting, I walk in to look at people that had just said that I was doing a cover-up. I don't do cover-ups.
It was one of the president's core campaign issues when he ran for office, spending money to improve the nation's infrastructure. But any hopes of a deal to make that happen have apparently fallen apart now in the midst of partisan bickering between the White House and congressional Democrats. We'll take a look when This Week in Politics continues on KSFY.